Hi, me back coming at you with actually something that I never knew existed until I saw this tape, which apparently I got in 2009, the same year I got the first one. I do think I might have gotten this one first, and then I got the second one. But regardless, I saw this in the at half price books for clearance, $1. This is what most VHSs are there, and like I said in the last review of the first movie, for some reason that was at $3. So it's kind of like, pfft, whatever. But luckily this one was $1, which of course I'm coming at you to review Trilogy of Terror 2, which is something I had no idea that there was a Trilogy of Terror 2. As you can see, this is a former, previously viewed movie from Blockbuster, which is quality guaranteed. But you can see the fantastic, if you want a little bit of retro feels, the fantastic Blockbuster Be a Friend, rewind when you reach the end, Blockbuster video. Wow, what a difference. So that some poor soul paid $6.99 for this, and I paid $1 for it, which is Trilogy of Terror 2. And as you can see, I was kind of confused because obviously it features on the cover and on the back the Zuni fetish doll, and I was kind of like, how can that be? And it kind of turns out to be kind of cool. Now this, it does say it's rated R. It's kind of misleading because on the back it says rated R for violence and terror, so I wasn't sure until later, but this was, I guess, I mean, the R rating is kind of nonsense because I think this was made for TV as well. I don't know if it was for like normal TV or cable or what, but it's something that, I mean, you know, I don't know if the R rating is whatever. I mean, I guess maybe there's a little more maybe blood and kind of creepy stuff in this than the first one, but I don't know if the R rating, if it's really an R rating, it might be more like PG-13 in terms of just whatever. And again, like the first one, this movie features a relatively cute, attractive like woman through all three stories. In the first one, there's this part where she's having sex, and you see her from the back, and you see her breasts, or why am I saying breasts? I'm not a woman. Her tits, you know, kind of like this, you know, the side tit thing, and it's just like, ugh. And this woman's kind of relatively skinny, and she's got some kind of nice sized tits for, and it's kind of like, oh man, you know how like when you're a guy, you just want to, you know, see what's there, but it's not like, you know, you've seen them before, and it's just whatever. Anyway, so this movie, just like obviously the first one, hence the title Trilogy of Terror 2, is you know, is comprised of 3 stories. This one's longer. Each story is probably like 30 minutes because the whole movie's 90, so it's longer than the first movie, which is, if I can just look at that, it's 72 minutes, and this one's like 90 minutes. So this, we'll start off with the first story here, which is after a very unimpressive like opening credits sequence, which is just like video. I was like, oh no, this movie's not shot on video, is it? But I don't think it was. I think just the opening credits were kind of like, well, it was video. But so the very first story is the graveyard rats. After bumping off her wealthy husband, a money-hungry wife faces an unexpected complication: a cemetery crawling with flesh-eating rodents. So this is actually, I'd say, potentially maybe even my favorite story of the Trilogy of Terror 2. There's something about it, just like, I don't know, this kind of sexy, you know, adulterous-ish woman, you know, just conniving. She's got this older husband, wealthy husband, that's just like, in the scene he's an asshole or whatever, and she's scheming with her boyfriend, who's kind of this goofy-ass guy, who I remember seeing on something else. She's just kind of a goofy-ass guy, scheming with her boyfriend to basically kill her husband because he showed her the will and is like, see, even though, you know, whatever, you're still in my will and everything goes to you. And I don't know why he showed her that. At first I thought it was going to be a twist, like then which I think would have been almost better than the way the movie turned out, but I thought he'd show her this fake will that shows that she's going to get everything, only to kill him, only to, you know, go to the reading of the will to, you know, find out that she's got nothing. Would have been cool. But the way this ends is, that's the direction I thought it was going, and I was like, oh well, that'd be cool. But what ends up happening is, this particular story also features the dad of what's her name, Juliette Lewis, the guy, the Geoffrey Lewis or whatever. Which I always liked that guy. Like from, I know him most from actually Double Impact. Actually, it's just like give me a break. And of course he's on Lawnmower Man, and I kind of just like that guy. He's just got this kind of manly mannishness about him, and he's featured in the first story, which turns out, I can't remember all the details, but turns out they, at the reading of the will or something, I can't remember, it's like it did turn out that way, where she didn't get, there was a bunch of money that she didn't get or have access to, and like some kind of code numbers were needed or something for some kind of, offshore account in Swiss account or whatever, and they determined, this review is all spoiler because it's hard to, I just want to tell you, just if you don't want to be spoiled, not that you even, if you don't want to be spoiled, don't, I guess, stop watching this review, but I'm going to spoil all 3 stories. So it turns out that basically the husband was buried with this pocket watch that has a secret compartment where he kept the microfilm of the kind of contrived, what the fuck, they had the microfilm of the code, of the codes needed to access this money or whatever. So they go to the oh, by the way, this Geoffrey Lewis or whatever at the pub was like telling them the story of, I'm going to be putting the old guy in the grave tomorrow. I would recommend one of these whatever, steel or concrete graves because this graveyard's got all kinds of rats. And his Irish accent that I'm not trying to do, by the way. Because if I was failing miserably. And he's like, and they're like, yeah, thank you, friend. It just figures that, you're the guy looking to make the profit, and just by coincidence you're telling us to, whatever, to buy the more expensive option, which is kind of cool because you think it's just a bunch of bullshit, but you find out at the end that it's in fact true that this, the particular, when these two scheming boyfriend and wife of the old guy trying to get the money go back at the end of the story to the graveyard to dig up the guy, the husband, to look in the pocket watch for the, like I say, very contrived microfilm. They find Geoffrey Lewis digging it up to, like, he's a grave robber, I guess, So this guy buries people and then digs them up to rob the grave and then buries them again, whatever. But why not just steal before you bury them? But whatever. The first time. Maybe it's OCD, but these two people come all dressed in black to the cemetery only to find Geoffrey Lewis, grave robbing, and I think they knock him, or they kill him with a shovel or something like that, and then right away, let's see, I can't remember how it works. I think right away after, then the boyfriend digs into the pocket or whatever and finds the watch and finds that it in fact does have the microfilm, and then he turns around to the girlfriend and she's like, shoots the boyfriend, of course, who didn't see that coming? I didn't, but whatever. So he's dead, and then like moments later, like we see like a big huge rat head, kind of like that one movie with Graveyard Shift, whatever, comes in and starts pulling the body, through this hole in the bottom of not the bottom, but where your feet are, part of the casket, and pulling the body through it. She's like, oh my gosh. So the story ends with, it's really kind of creepy, with her going, because they pulled the body completely through to underground, and she goes in there, of course, underground, which is really creepy, under this big, the rats have burrowed this huge whatever, this, under the grave, under the ground, all these tunnels to connect from grave to coffin, that they've stole the corpses out of and eaten the corpses and shit. So this story ends with this creepy scene where she's trying to chase down the rat and get the rats and get the watch from the corpse before they eat the corpse. And I think she ends up doing that and then tries to find her way somehow. I don't know, these rats would eat her alive, but whatever. Somehow finds her way back to what she perceives as being the coffin, which of course was open, all dug up and open. So she finds this opening into a coffin, which she perceives as the one that she came into, her husband's, and she goes into it only to see that it's like closed, and she's like, "Argh!" Of course we wouldn't be able to see, there would be no light in there because it's closed, but whatever, I'm being too picky. So basically, I'm taking way too long, I'm sorry. It basically turns out that she went in, one of these other coffins of someone else who was completely buried. And the way they explain this is by, her being attacked, being cornered in this coffin that's completely shut and being attacked by rats, and then basically cutting to another gravestone, above ground, and we hear her like, ah, 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 and then we pan over to the grave of her husband, which is completely, open, the casket open, and it's completely empty. So she went in the wrong. That's kind of like one of the best things about the whole short, is when it can end with this payoff that's kind of cool. She went in the wrong casket she was completely cornered in, and completely buried over. Not only was the casket closed, but completely, buried over by ground and dirt and earth and all that stuff. So I took way too much time to talk about that story. I'm going to try to make up for it by going less on the second story. So that might be one of my favorite stories in Trilogy of Terror 2. The second story is Bobby. Monstrous consequences result when a mother strikes a devilish bargain to bring her drowned son back from the dead. I can probably say this very quickly. This story is probably my least favorite in the Trilogy of Terror 2. It's about this son, or this wife this woman who, basically does this, satanic shit or whatever to conjure her, kind of like Pet Sematary. It's a rip-off of Pet Sematary. Conjure up her dead. At the time, we assumed that her her dead boy or her dead son had died in some accident or something like that. So she's conjuring back her dead son, a la Pet Sematary rip-off, and long story short, he comes back, and we spend the story just kind of like this. I can't even remember. I think the son acts weird or whatever, and the son ends up being like, "Oh, let's play a game, Mommy. It's hide and seek or whatever." And I don't know. I can't remember. I think throughout the story we get a sense that the mom is kind of like controlling or whatever like that. And anyway, long story short, I'm going to spoil this motherfucker. Sorry, I'm going to spoil this bastard out completely. Long story short is it turns out that the mom was such a horrible mom that the kid actually went off and killed himself to get away from the mom. And in place of actually, instead of returning back to life, back to her horrible mom, she sent this, I don't know what the hell this is, some kind of demon, some other bad entity or whatever that basically looked like her son the whole time, and ended up playing a trick at the end of hide and seek on her. And I can't even remember how it ends. I think it's just a reveal of this kind of stupid demon. I don't know if you can see. It's a reveal of that at the very end, like, you were terrible to your son, and when you called your son, he sent me instead. Bleh. And I think it's one of those, like, just zoom in on her face, like, I don't think we see her die or anything like that. So I didn't really like that story, because the whole thing is just like nothing happens. So in closing, the He Who Kills, which is kind of cool, which is of course a sequel to the Zuni fetish doll story of the first movie, which is really cool. It's kind of like a sequel / remake of the first story, the first Zuni fetish story in the first Trilogy of Terror movie, which basically, although it's a completely different apartment and all this and that, the story starts with the aftermath of the apartment from the first story. So we see that the mom did in fact get killed, when she arrived, by the possessed purchaser of the Zuni fetish doll with the knife. And then we see what's presumably like to be Karen Black's legs, like with a robe on, which are I guess the doll, or the possessedness killed, the possessed Zuni fetish soul left I don't know, it's not explained, but I guess the soul must have left the woman after she killed her mom and just went back into the doll or whatever. But the doll, of just like Child's Play 2, is taken, like this burnt, crisp thing is taken right out of the oven where it was put. You know, of course it's not the same location or whatever, but they found a similar oven. Took the Zuni fetish doll, which is burnt to a crisp, and it's all just whatever, black and burnt. And they're like, oh, let's take this for evidence. And it's, like I say, it's just like Child's Play 2, when basically this woman who played the part in the, the woman in the first story and the second story, she's back again to play this kind of scientist in this museum place. It's kind of like museum place or whatever. It's kind of like if you've seen Puppet Master 5, the beginning of Puppet Master 5, or is it 4? No, I think it's 5. When the same thing happened very much, and that came out a year. I don't know, it came out around the same time. But, so anyway, long story short, it's like a sequel and a remake to the first Zuni Fetish story, where basically the same beats happen. It's more like a remake, but the beginning of it's like a sequel because they recover the doll from the crime scene of the first story. Or the third story of the first movie. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so mind-tied here. Mind-twisted. So it goes through the same beats of the first movie, and there's actually more. I guess, I can't remember. I know for sure, like a security guard who was like, I don't know why they put this in there, but he's like, yeah, I'm an actor, and people say I look like Stallone. You, Adrian? And it's just like, okay, whatever. So the security guard in the story is like an aspiring actor who, I don't know, it's really dumb. It's just mentioned in passing. So anyway, like I say, what I was saying is that actually there's at least another person killed by the hands of the Zuni fetish doll. It's not like just one person, like in the case of the first, the story, the first story, the third story from the first movie. We actually see, because it's like a museum thing at night, and these are security guards, we see this one guy, which is kind of cool. There's like this ancient whatever, wax figure of some kind of ancient whatever with, with a bow and arrow pulled back. And it's really cool because there's this like security guards looking around over there. The Zuni fetish doll pops up, and like, even though you wouldn't have a completely, pulled back, tight, fake arrow in a museum, you're not going to have that as a security risk. In the story, whatever, it is like that. So the Zuni fetish doll, like, I don't know, cuts something so the figure actually shoots the arrow into the guy. It's like, that was kind of cool and dumb at the same time. And then we basically, I can't remember, it's very similar that the woman scientist who's scraping the doll up and kind of has it bring back to life, has this date with this guy planned, and very similar to the the first story situation, or the third story of the first movie. And I'm getting exhausted here reviewing, so bear with me. Oh my god. It's just keeping track of all this crap. So in closing, basically the same beats happen, where she once she realizes that the doll is alive, and I think she discovers her body, whatever, and it's like coming at her and stuff. It's the same thing where there's like 3 separate instances where she thinks she has it defeated, it pops up, defeated, pops up. She puts it in, instead of the oven, she'll put it in the some kind of acid or whatever that she has in her little doctor scientific area where she works or whatever, and you think it's all melted to death or whatever, not like a Zuni fetish doll's gonna drown, but whatever. It doesn't have lungs, it doesn't need air, but whatever. You think it's defeated, I guess, is what I'm saying, in the acid. And I think same thing happens where she, instead of opening the door of the oven, she opens or looks into the thing with the acid, and it's like, and then just like the first story or the third story from the first movie, I think the boyfriend comes later to pick her up because she got to work to see what's going on with the Zuni fetish doll, so she can report her findings to the police. I can't remember how this story ends, if it's just like gonna, if we see her attack him or whatever, but I can't remember. I'm afraid I can't remember. I guess it's not very memorable how it ends, but it's the same basic thing, I think, where she must be possessed, I would imagine. But yeah, I feel very negligent as a reviewer and having forgotten how the third story ends. But anyway, because it's not the 1970s and it's not as quaint, I'm just gonna probably go. I think we'll go 1 3/4 stars for Trilogy of Terror 2, because although I do, the lead woman is sexy and whatever, and we see her do different roles throughout the movie, I think that just being 1996, this came out in 96, and just, I don't know, it's more modern, and it's just, it doesn't have the quaintness of 1975, let's face it. And there's something just magical about the first one with, what's her name? Karen Black and stuff. So 1 3/4 stars for Trilogy of Terror 2. I don't know if this is on YouTube or not. I imagine it could be. Like I say, I wouldn't really recommend it. It's not that big a deal. Nothing much to see here. I mean, if you want to see the Zuni Fetish doll back, that's kind of cool to see back. But I think we'll leave it there, having probably worn out my welcome like no one's business. We'll leave it there, and thank you very much for watching this review. And as always, I'll catch you on the next video.